lied to the police and said he abused me. Seeing him cry in handcuffs made me feel powerful. I need your help, guys, and it's quite urgent. Responses will be appreciated as soon as I can get them, please. My boyfriend of 6 years is after my life because I did something to him. I don't mean he's planning to kill me, but what he's about to do is much worse than killing. Although what I did was very horrible, and he does have every right to be angry. I know I did the wrong thing, but he had upset me, and I just wanted to do something to hurt him. I know I overreacted, and I'm trying to get him to forgive me, but he is so angry with me and doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. At least not until he has gotten his revenge. I probably should be explaining how it all started instead of just rambling. Hello, Reddit. My name is May, and I'm a 28-year-old model, and I'm in a lot of trouble, as you may have deduced from what I wrote earlier. Actually, my boyfriend, Ryan, who we've been together with for 6 years, like I said, had been my childhood friend growing up. We have been best of friends since childbirth, and we were even born just hours apart. He always did taunt me with the fact that he's older than me by a few hours while we grew up, and it kind of became our secret love. I saw him as an older brother and a best friend for the longest time. Ryan's parents did not give birth to any other kids, as his dad had walked out on their marriage just 3 weeks after Ryan was born. He was raised purely by his mom, who I already called Aunt Maggie. My parents, on the other hand, especially my mom, decided she was only going to have a child too, just to match up with her best friend. And despite my father's attempt that they had more kids, my mom never agreed. So Ryan and I were raised as siblings. In fact, most times we slept over at each other's place whenever we had a play date and slept off. And it was too late to move either of us back to our original place. I loved Ryan coming to stay over at our place, and it was almost often because of how hard Aunt Maggie had to work to fend for them. She was barely home, although she made up for it on weekends when she would take us on a trip to the park, and we would have a mini picnic. When we were in high school, the closeness between Ryan and I reduced because of how much attention he got from the girls. Ryan, as a teenager, was quite handsome, and he had his charming smile and deep blue eyes that attracted many girls, even me. I have always loved Ryan for the longest time, and he was my first love, but he didn't know that until many years later. Ryan, not knowing how I felt about him, would always tell me everything about whatever was going on, especially stories about the girls. I knew when he fell in love, and I knew when the girl he was in love with broke up with him, because she felt he was too popular and made her feel insecure. And then because of that, every other relationship Ryan had been on a facial level. He never took things seriously again, especially girls, just dated them for the fun of it. Although I knew he didn't love any of them, each time he met a girl and introduced her to his best friend, I got hurt each time and tried hard to pretend it didn't hurt. I tried dating other guys, but the relationship just couldn't work because none of them was Ryan. I dated 2 guys before I finally got together with Ryan, and both of them had broken things off with me because they realized that I was in love with my best friend. I did not go to university because I didn't feel the need to do so. My parents were very devastated when I told them I wasn't going to go to the university, and being their only child was sort of disappointing for them. But I knew what I wanted right from the beginning, and that had been to become a model. I barely had good grades, and when I did have, it's because I tried my hardest to just do it. Ryan, on the other hand, didn't exactly enjoy studying, but is very brilliant regardless. He studied effortlessly, so I had not even been surprised when he got into the university and studied engineering. We kept in touch all the time, even though I wasn't in school. Ryan would always tell me about everything happening there in school. I was busy trying to snatch myself an agent for the best part of Ryan being a student in the university, but I had only dead ends until I met Sean. Sean had been looking for girls that were without agents that he could help grow, and he was very well known in the modeling world to help girls with their modeling careers. So imagine how happy I was when he told me that he would help me. We met in a club because I was almost always there, knowing that celebrities frequented the club. I had lots of debts, so I was able to afford the entry fee every night, hoping one day I'll catch the eye of a modeling agency, which I had that night. I was sticking to the bar and sipping my very expensive martini, so I didn't look out of place while scanning for the people I wanted to see that night. Luckily, I had sighted Sean immediately when he entered the club, and knowing people like that, he probably was going to go straight to the VIP room where I'd have no access. So I immediately just came up with an idea, and I walked towards him, slowing down when I got near, then pretended I was on a call, and I purposely tripped in front of him, making it look like an accident. My martini splashed all over the floor around me. Sean had helped me up and offered to buy me another martini if I came with him to his lounge, and I agreed. It was during that period I told him about my job, which is almost non-existent. He had promised to help me and even gotten my number. It had been the happiest night of my life, and for once, all the debts that I had because of the entry fee. I waited for Sean's call for a while. By a while, I meant an awfully long while, and he never called. I had so many debts already, and I couldn't go back to the club because I had to work some night shifts so I could pay back my debts. On nights when I wasn't working, I would stalk the club and wait around to see whether Sean was going to come around, but he never did show up. I did this for a month before I gave up. I decided that modeling wasn't for me, and when I told Ryan about my frustrations, he had advised me to just take my parents' advice and go to school. So I gave in, and I had even told my parents that I was going to university. They were so happy and had put everything in place. I even got a spot, luckily, in university, thanks to my parents, and the day before I was supposed to resume, I got a call from Sean. I was so happy when he asked if I was still up for modeling gigs, and of course I had said yes, but I knew my parents would be disappointed if I gave up my spot in school again after everything they did to get me there, so I pretended to travel to school to please them. But instead, I had gone over to Sean's place. Sean had this huge house that contained different girls, all his models, and they all coexisted in the same space. I joined them in living there, and at first it wasn't exactly easy. You know how girls can be when a new person is in their space. They tend to try and dominate and show who's boss. And it frustrated me for a while until Sean paid personal attention to me. He took me with him almost everywhere, even on shoots. I watched with him the different poses the models assumed to get perfect angles for the pictures, and then the walkways where different models from his agency helped advertise clothes, and there's also the adverts. I was there with him for everything, but yet he never allowed me to model, not even once. He would always say I wasn't ready, and it pissed me off. The only thing I was ready for, apparently, is a pose on his bed. Yes, I started sleeping with Sean just to get myself an opportunity to model, but Sean still didn't think I was ready. It took a while before Sean allowed me to model for anything, and it had been a TV advertisement. The model that was supposed to be on it got sick with the flu, and they only found out minutes before the shoot. Luckily, I was available for the shoot. It had been a 2-minute ad, but I was so happy I got on it. I did my best and avoided lots of corrections. I even did the perfect postures, and the directors were quite satisfied. But Sean wasn't. He was clearly pissed at me for agreeing to do the shoot. It was then it became clear that Sean never wanted to make me a model. He only wanted me as his sex slave. It made me even more desperate to succeed, and I did. I started getting very big offers, and agents were calling me to sign with them. So I left Sean and signed with one of the popular agencies. You may be wondering if it was just because of the advertisement I did that I started getting modeling gigs. I was sleeping with the right people, if you get what I mean. I didn't mind because I was happy to be getting the jobs I was getting. It didn't matter that I was literally selling my body in exchange for these jobs. It didn't matter that most of the men I slept with were twice my age. All that mattered was that I was able to get my dream apartment in the city I chose, and I could afford more expensive brands of clothes, and I had followers on every social media app I used. It was a happy life for me. It was until Ryan came back into the picture that I realized just what I was doing wasn't very good. Ryan had moved into the town where I stayed because he got a job offer. And knowing that I was there, he was quite enthusiastic about taking the job. And by the way, my parents eventually found out that I never went to school, and they were very upset about it and didn't speak to me for a whole year. Ryan was very upset with me too, but he had eventually forgiven me, and he was the bridge between my parents and me. It had been due to his influence that my parents had started talking to me again. So when he moved into the town and had rented the apartment close to mine, when he moved in, we spent more time, and most of the time we slept at his apartment instead of mine. I hid most of the information about what I did from Ryan. He only knew that I model, but didn't know the other dirty details. I didn't tell him because I didn't want him to see me as that person. It was after about 3 months that we were staying together that we started dating. Ryan confessed his feelings for me, and I of course have never stopped loving him, so we just started dating. I was the happiest girl on earth. I love Ryan so much. Despite being together for years as friends, being together as lovers was even better. Ryan was just the best. He made sure to look out for me. He was always buying me gifts, and he even asked my parents for approval after we both had confirmed to each other that we have mutual feelings. We were happy, and everyone in my circle knew about my relationship, and so did his too. We went out together, and we were literally the unmarried couple because of how we behaved. Ryan knew everything about me, and I knew everything about him too because we told each other everything. Well, except one thing. Ryan still didn't know about what I really did to get my modeling jobs. When I had to spend the nights at hotel rooms with one of my clients, I would lie to Ryan that I had to leave town for the job and would be back the next day. He believed me and would even call and text to know whether I had gotten there, whereas I was still in the same town, only a different location. But if it was you, what would you have done? Would you tell your boyfriend about the dirty deeds you have to do to get money so he could stop loving you or treating you as he did before? I couldn't, or at that point I thought I couldn't. I couldn't give up everything I was doing. I liked the lifestyle that came with it. The money, the fame, and even the attention from everyone, not just from Ryan alone. I loved it all, and I just thought I couldn't give it all up, so I continued sleeping around to gain favors. If I stopped sleeping around and hoped to get favors based on my skills alone, I would just be stuck in the background forever. The last time that happened, I was still with Sean and had nothing to my name. Soon enough, my once happy relationship started to get difficult. Well, Ryan was happy, but I wasn't. We were together for 4 years already, and then having known each other all our lives, I expected that we would even be married by the 2nd year of dating. But the reverse had been the case. I kept trying to talk about marriage issues, but Ryan avoided every topic on it, claiming things were good between us, and we weren't ready for marriage. I knew it had everything to do with his father, who walked away when he was just a child. He didn't want to be saddled with the burden of marriage and feel the need to also do the same thing to his child. In fact, he insisted that we made no mistake of getting pregnant when we started dating. I thought he had been joking until he actually started using protection when we slept together. He never would sleep with me during my ovulation period. At first, I was pleased because it meant I didn't have to worry about my shape during and after pregnancy, especially because of my line of work. So I just went along with the flow, but then, when we were 4 years into the relationship, and he had not changed or talked about starting a family with me, it started to make me upset. I would snap or nag at every little thing he did, whether right or wrong, and Ryan was obviously confused. I didn't want to have to say that I wanted marriage. I just wanted him to guess, and guess right. But Ryan would try to please me, and it only further irritated me. He would buy me gifts or sometimes cook dinner and make a romantic setting so we could eat together. Sometimes he would just come pick me up from the location for any modeling work I had, and he would take me out to dinner. One time it was a 3-day trip, but I'm sure he ended up regretting every time because I knew he was trying to please me, and because it further irritated me that he didn't get exactly what it was I wanted, I would still act up and ruin everything. The 3-day trip had been cut short to a day and a half because I was irritable, and Ryan just got tired and had driven us back the next day. We only spent a day there while the other half had been spent on the road back home. Through all of these, though, I still continued sleeping with the clients I was sleeping with. But eventually I stopped sleeping with about 3 or 4 as I was before, and started sleeping with just one of them, Edmund. Edmund is a very influential person, and he didn't exactly own a company or anything, but he had various contacts and could do anything he wanted with just one phone call. I met him one time when I had done a face cream model for a company. I slept with their CEO to get the job. He had come around because he had some business to attend to that day, and we had met. Edmund did not hesitate to ask me questions and had slipped me his business card to contact him. I had plans to throw away the card because of the way he had approached me, but one of the girls I worked with had come to me excitedly and had gushed about Edmund, and how lucky I was that I got his contact. I kept the card and did my research about him, and I discovered just how influential he was. I reached out to him, and the rest, they say, is history. Edmund had told me he could get me any modeling job so far I wanted it, but he had told me that I had to stop sleeping with other men because he was possessive, and I agreed to his condition. But then I was lying to him. He was not the only man in my life. Ryan was the first man, and I was hoping to be the last man, but Edmund didn't know that, and I kept it as that. Dealing with both of them was quite draining. Edmund demanded my attention nearly all the time, and I had to be careful so Ryan wouldn't suspect me. I couldn't afford to lose him, so I tried very hard to ensure that he didn't notice, and it was particularly exhausting. I got more job offers like never before, and before long, I was the most sought-after model. I got the popularity I wanted and needed, thanks to Edmund's influence. I barely had time for Ryan again. When I got home, I was either too exhausted from having to pose all day or from Edmund demanding sex. Edmund is very demanding, especially during sex, unlike Ryan, who is gentle and always seeks after my own satisfaction before his. Edmund, on the other hand, didn't care much about my own satisfaction. He only just wanted to take, and it gets exhausting most times having to please him and fake moaning and orgasm just to make him feel like a man. Sometimes I get very tender down there because of his hard lovemaking, and unfortunately, those are the times when Ryan would want to touch me, so I just snap at him and complain about him being insensitive. I would lie about being too tired from work as an excuse and that he, Ryan, was being insensitive to my tiredness and demanding I do another physical chore again, sex. I guess Ryan got tired of it and stopped demanding sex from me. Although whenever I tried to get him in the mood, he never complained and would actually sleep with me, but he never personally asked for sex again. It made me feel insecure and fear that he was getting his sexual satisfaction from someone else. That also made me start accusing him of cheating. Ryan was frustrated most of the time with me and would just leave the house until he was sure I was calm. I don't even mean to react that way most times, and I usually regret it afterwards, but then I cannot help but just feel really insecure about the whole thing. And then there was the thing with Edmund, who was just too much. So every frustration I felt, I kept using it on Ryan, and I knew how unfair that was to him. Our 5th-year anniversary, Ryan had decided to celebrate in grand style. He had booked a restaurant for the night and had even given me money to shop for a killer dress and matching bags and shoes. I was so excited for the night, and I had gone shopping the afternoon before. Luckily, I had no modeling work that day, so I was free to spend time with Ryan, and the way Ryan kept behaving 2 weeks before the day, I had my suspicions that he wanted to finally do the one thing I've wanted so desperately from him. He wanted to propose. The signs were just right there, and I knew that Ryan wanted to make things official between us, and I was pretty excited about it all. Well, everything was going on well, and I had dressed up to go meet Ryan at the restaurant. He had asked me to sleep at my apartment the day before because, according to him, he wanted to see me looking all flashy and to surprise him too. I was already dressed up, and I was already picking my purse to step out when Edmund's call came in. I knew better than to ignore his call because of how volatile his temper is. So I had picked up, hoping he didn't want to ask me to come to his place. Well, I guessed right. Edmund had called me to come over immediately to his place. Apparently he was in a bad mood because of a business gone wrong, and he needed someone to vent his anger to, which practically meant he needed someone to sleep with. I couldn't say no, so I had no choice but to go to his place. I didn't know what to say to Ryan, so I didn't bother calling him or anything, and I silenced my phone to prevent it from ringing out loud while I was with Edmund. That night had been very awful, because Edmund literally used me as a human venting out machine. I was so sore in places I cannot even say out loud. When I got home the next morning, Ryan had slept in the living room, obviously waiting for me to show up through the night, and he must have fallen asleep then. When he woke up and saw me, he had been worried and just hugged me, but I had cringed because of how sore I was, and Ryan had just led me to the bathroom, removed my clothes, and ran the bath for me. It was after taking the bath that I felt a little relaxed that I realized what I had just allowed to happen. My body had lots of bruises, and it was obvious it wasn't from being beaten, but from rough sex, and Ryan had been the one to undress me and run me a bath. So he had seen my body like that. When I went into the room, Ryan was sitting on the bed with his head between his hands, and he was staring into empty space. I knew he knew. So I just went down on my knees to apologize to him, but Ryan didn't say anything. Well, just one word. He called me a slut. He had left the house after that and didn't come back for the day. The next day, when he came around, he had the police waiting for him, and they arrested him just outside our house. He hurt me with his words. I was only just trying to survive, and trading my body for sex had been the only way I could do that. I had been so sad he said that to me, and then I had been upset, and I wanted to hurt him as much as he had hurt me. So I called Edmund that I wanted to get someone arrested because the person had insulted me, and Edmund had told me to call the police and make up some lies so he could get arrested and then leave the rest to him. I did as instructed, and the only thing I could think of was lying about sexual assault. So I called the police and lied about being sexually molested by my next-door neighbor, and they had come to stall overnight until that morning. Ryan didn't come home that night, so he had been arrested as soon as he did show up. The look of pure agony mixed with shock and anger on his face made me happy, and he had shed a tear immediately the handcuffs had been placed around his wrist, and he was being taken into the police car. Seeing how he looked so helpless at that point after calling me a slut made me feel powerful. I felt that he would then understand how I felt, helpless and needing to do something desperate so I could get to money and the fame I needed. I was happy when he was in the cell, and I had even gone with the police to cry and fake some tears and fabricate lies about how it happened. I was just so angry and wanted him to remain there for a while. Honestly, my intentions had been that he was only detained for a day, but when it had gotten to 3 days and he was still there, I became scared. And I called Edmund to release him, but Edmund had been adamant about keeping him there, and Ryan had ended up spending a week there. He had apparently been vindicated when the police discovered that Ryan and I were actually lovers, and that I had only told those lies when he found out that I was cheating. And they had also discovered that the person I was cheating with was the one influencing the case, so they had to let Ryan go. I was so scared, especially after hearing from our mutual friends about how Ryan has been so angry and has been threatening to bring hell upon me. Everything dawned on me, and I knew I was doomed. I was so scared of what Ryan could do that the minute I knew he was released, I did the only thing my brain programmed me to do, and that was running away. I hid from Ryan, and I'm still in hiding. I'm so scared because I know how angry he is, and that he is willing to expose my affairs with Edmund to ruin both of us. I've texted and called him several times to apologize, but Ryan doesn't return any of it, and I'm so scared right now. Just how do you get your boyfriend of 6 years to forgive you and accept you back and not ruin you like he's planning to after you've done the most terrible thing to him? Please, guys, help me. I'm willing to do anything at all. I need your help, guys. Update. Hello, Reddit. My life is completely ruined. I've done it. I've finally done it. I've gone and ruined my life all by myself. I'm the devil that is set on ruining myself, and I've pushed and pushed until I've finally done it. It's so awful, this feeling. These overwhelming feelings are coming at me all at once. I feel hate, anger, bitterness, regret, and sorrow all at once, and they're all so overwhelming and happening all at once. It's so terrible. Ryan has somehow gotten the information he needed to destroy Edmund and me. I don't know how he got it, but he had gotten a video of Edmund and me entering a hotel room together, and then another one of us having sex. He didn't even bother to blur out our faces. He posted it, and now every company has withdrawn their contract with me. In fact, some are suing me because customers are returning their products and bashing them online because I was the face of their products. I've paid so much compensation, I'm already so broke, and even in debt. Everybody hates me. You guys, my parents who are very disappointed in me and have decided to pretend like they had no child at all, and particularly Ryan. I don't have anyone on my side. I'm so lonely and broke, and I don't even know what to do with my life anymore. You guys certainly haven't made it easy for me. I came here knowing that I did the most awful thing to someone I claimed I love, and I regret it, but thinking I could maybe have a solution of some sort to sort out the mess I found myself in. But you guys have made that worse. Your words, your demeaning and hurtful words, have made me feel far worse than I ever thought was possible. I hate myself so much right now, and you guys just make it even easier to hate myself more than is humanly possible. It's not so easy living with myself. I cannot even go out for fear of being recognized and scorned. Even my shadow scares me now. Well, I thought that Edmund's influence would get him out of this one situation, but apparently you cannot get out of every situation because every one of his contacts had removed themselves from him, as if they had all decided to. I am not keeping any track of him, but I know for a fact that he's now very alone, probably as alone as I am right now. But I'm sure I have it worse than he does. The one thing that hurts me the most amongst everything is not even the whole situation with other people or even you guys. It's Ryan. Ryan had been my one big supporter and had always been the one person I have always had to turn to when things got hard. But I lost that right, and right now I don't even know how to go about anything. I'm so lost. I cheated on the most amazing man because I was too selfish and greedy. I've been in love with Ryan for most of my life, and when I finally got him, I lost him because of my selfish attitude. I kept cheating, and until the end, I still cheated. And now I've lost everything dear to me. I cheated throughout our relationship. I let other men sleep with me, and I behaved just as a street girl would have just to get money and fame. The same money I've now used up and is in debts. The same fame that is now very negative and excruciating to bear. I'm in shambles, and I feel so horrible, really. I just lost Ryan. I just lost the man I love because of me. I'm so ashamed and disappointed in myself. Several times I've called and texted just to beg Ryan to forgive me, even if it was just a little, to see if this guilt that has stamped on my heart will ease a little, or maybe I'll feel less pain than I do right now. But that's probably a lie. Ryan will never forgive me, and I probably will never feel any less pain than I do, but maybe I'd feel more than it. But I just keep texting with no replies to keep my deluded mind sane. I have a lot of regrets, and the biggest one of all is losing my best friend and my boyfriend. I pushed, and now I've pushed to a point of no return. Everything is so gone, sadly. Just how do I cope with all of this? It's so overwhelming. I want this weight off of me, but I can't, because I deserve it. All of it. Update. Hello, Reddit. It's me again. It's been 3 months. Yes, I know, right? 3 months have passed since the whole storm, and you'd think things will get better with time. But that's a lie. Things don't get better with time. It gets worse, and I think it's only going to continue to get worse. I moved out of my apartment and moved into another different town where no one knew me, and I started working as a waitress just to be able to eat and also pay back my debts. I still feel terrible and lonely. Life is almost unbearable to live in, and I feel like I'm being choked up most times by just being me. I didn't think it was possible to hate yourself even more than you already have, but I keep discovering new things every day, and that includes hating myself even more each day. I have nothing to live for. The only thing that keeps me going is that I should pay for my sins, and death seems like an easy way out. And I shouldn't be taking any easy way out. I should suffer for what I've done to hurt Ryan and my parents. Death feels too easy, and I'm too much of a coward to kill myself. Bearing the pain each day and seeing myself suffer is the only way I know I can pay for what I did to hurt Ryan. Ryan, my one true love. He didn't deserve any of the things I did to him, and yet I let my selfishness and greediness lead me astray. I wonder if I had done better. I probably would be married to Ryan now. We probably would be preparing to have a kid. I should have been patient with Ryan and taught him that he was going to be a responsible husband and father, and that marriage was going to be a good thing for us. I should have helped him get over the trauma, but I was so sucked up by my own selfishness that I just kept reacting and nagging until finally he had to do that all on his own. It's such a shame how my life has eventually turned out, and I know wishing would be a useless effort because nothing will ever go back to normal. My life will never go back to normal. I'm ruined forever, and this is the end. This is actually my last post here. I have realized that even typing it out, especially to people who don't even care, cannot solve my problem. It only creates a small safe haven, and it definitely doesn't help in getting my life back on track. So yes, this is the last time you'll be hearing from me, but I can assure you guys of one thing. I will forever be miserable, and I know that I can never find peace. Not after what I've done. I hope you guys learned something from my miserable life, though. It's pretty true what they say about learning from someone else's experience. Learning from yours definitely will leave a scar that may never be healed, like mine has. Thanks and goodbye.